What's going on YouTube? Heretic here, back with a new deck profile. It's been a little while, and today I'm taking a look at the Crobat Wobbuffet deck that has recently been picking up steam at the city championships across the country. Anyways, this is just a list that I've been working with right now. Slightly handicapped by one card, which will be the first card you'll see, and that is Zubat. I currently run a 3-1 split of Zubat. Reason is I don't own a fourth one of this one with the ability, so we're running 3 skill dives. Basically, I like this one more, even though he has 10 less HP, and that's mainly just because he has free retreat, as long as he doesn't have an energy attached to him, and seeing as to how this entire evolution line will never have an energy attached to it, he will always have free retreat. That said, the attack on this Zubat actually has done something for me once or twice, so I can't say it's completely terrible, but for the most part, I think this is probably the better one. I mean, people have their different opinions, but that's just my personal view. So anyway, 4 Golbats. That should surprise no one. When you play him from your hand to evolve Zubat, you get to put 2 damage counters on any one of your opponent's Pokemon that you want. And so, those who remember Crobat G, which when you benched it as a basic, would put 1 damage counter. You're evolving something, so now we're getting 2 damage counters. And then for 1 colorless, he does 10 damage to every one of your opponent's Pokemon in play. So that's Golbat. And then, of course, the trend continues with the new Crobat, as when you play him from your hand, you get to put 3 damage counters on any one of your opponent's Pokemon. So basically, you just accumulate damage with Golbat and Crobat, and we're going to have a number of cards that will allow us to reuse their abilities. And then he also has an attack for 1 colorless energy that will deal any 30 damage to any one of your opponent's Pokemon that you choose. So basically like the 50 HP Zubat, but it deals 30 instead of 10. And at 130 HP free retreat, I mean, you actually can use it to attack from time to time, believe it or not. It's actually not too terrible, at least in terms of setting up. Then we have our main attacker, which is also our main active Pokemon for the deck, I feel like, overall, and that's Wobbuffet. His ability prevents all abilities from every Pokemon except for Psychic types from working as long as he's in the active. Now, the entire Crobat line is Psychic type in the card game, so they are unaffected by Wobbuffet. There's a few others that are unaffected by it. I guess the real thorn in the side would be Mr. Mime. However, the abilities of Golbat and Crobat place damage counters as opposed to inflicting damage, which is good news for them, as they can still go pass right through Mr. Mime's ability. And then you have Psychic Assault for 1 Psychic and 1 colorless energy, which does 10 damage plus 10 more damage for each damage counter already on your opponent's active Pokemon. So basically you get them down to where they are at half health, and you just bring this guy out and you use Psychic Assault to finish him off. And it doubles however much damage that's on him, and then an additional 10. So, that is Wobbuffet. You just let the Crobat line do its job from the bench, and Wobbuffet sits up the active, prevents stuff like Aromatisse and Genesect from being able to use their abilities, and also just is able to dish out a pretty good amount of damage at the same time. 4 Dimension Valleys. 4 copies of a stadium might seem a little bit on the insane side, but we absolutely need to make sure we win the stadium war, because we do not run a lot of energy in this deck, and our entire Crobat line, except for the 40 HP Zubats that we would want to be running, which you don't really want to be attacking with anyway. Everything else swings for 1 colorless, which means that they can attack for free when this is out. And it also allows Wobbuffet to swing for just 1 Psychic energy as opposed to needing 2 energy, which is a huge difference, once again. And you gotta be able to win that Stadium War, so we play 4 copies for that, plus max consistency. And then we get to our supporter line, where we are going to run 4 Professor Sycamores, 4 Ns. I feel like all that's pretty standard. We only run 8 basics in the deck, so I'm not going to be playing Colress in here. Instead, we're going to play 2 Shaunas. And then we play 2 Lysanders, a Lysander's trump card to get everything back, which can actually be necessary, especially if you have to discard stuff early game or if you have a couple things get knocked out early on. And then 1 Zero Sick, mainly just because Garbatoad locks and stuff like that. Like, Garbodor really does shut this entire deck down, and I know that depending on where you play, it may or may not be prominent, and you can adjust your numbers accordingly. Also, if it's like how much it's played with Toad, which I feel like is the combo with Garbodor now, is just Seismitoad. And just being able to play it even when they can't do that. You can just then one turn their Garbodor. The fact that this deck actually relies on its abilities to be able to deal enough damage to knock it out means you can't just Lysander it up and KO it without teching in like a Mewtwo or something. Now our Crobat and Golbat abilities only work when we play them from our hand onto the bench by evolution. So we like to have ways to reuse those. So we have 2 AZs, 2 copies of AZ, and then we run 4 copies of Super Scoop Up, and we also run our Ace Spec, which is Scoop Up Cyclone. So 7 cards. Granted, Super Scoop Up is a coin flip, but we have 7 cards that will allow us to kind of exploit that advantage, take advantage of being able to reuse their abilities. And then there's always Lysander's trump card if they get knocked out. So definitely some ways to work with that. And then, again, because we play such a heavy Pokemon line in terms of its evolution line, needing them to be consistent setup, we do play the max 4 Ultra Ball. Most decks only play 3, so this is a bit of an exception. 2 Enhanced Hammers just for like pure power fighting decks and such, just to kind of slow them down. 2 Bikes, just extra draw power because it always seems good. And we do not have Jirachi in this deck because, well, with Wobbuffet active, Jirachi doesn't work so well. Which is a shame considering how many ways we would have to reuse it if we were able to run it. 2 Versus Seekers to retrieve supporters. This number could definitely be increased, especially in a deck like this one. Like I said before, we don't have Jirachi. We also do not have Computer Search or Dowsing Machine to get us a supporter. 1 Town Map. Get your Crobat line stuff. Get anything else you might need out of the prizes, be able to pick the ones you want. 1 Switch and 1 Escape Rope. You could probably just go 2 Escape Ropes in here because most of the time you're going to be able to free retreat pretty much whatever you Escape Rope into, just Golbats and Crobats, Zubats with no energy. So you could probably just play 2 Escape Ropes, but it's more just to trap your opponent. Having the 1 Switch is never really a bad idea though. Then we have 4 Mystery Energies, and we also play 2 basic Psychics. Really, you only need the 4 energy for most of the time. The 4 Mystery Energy, which will, in combination with Dimension Valley, will allow you to use Wobbuffet's attack, and will also enable it to have a free retreat cost. However, Aegis/EX is a thing, and so we do need the basic energies for that. No matter how much we don't want to admit it, or say we could Lysander around it, or just snipe the bench all day, which is conceivably possible. It's still good to have that out in case you need it. So that is Crobat Wobbuffet. It's very different than the average deck in the format, but if you want to give it a try, test it out, and let me know what you think down below. Cheers!
Oh, I can't believe I didn't think of this earlier. A hotline straight to my bestest friend in the world. Just think, I can call you up whenever I get bored. I think our relationship is really maturing here. The next thing you know is we'll be exchanging emails.